We're on.
Call the meeting to order for the January 5th meeting of the Board of Supervisors. Please join me in the pledge to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I have to announce that our streaming, the video will not be able to be recorded on the streaming device, but everyone out in their living rooms can hear us on
The cameras just aren't working. We're having technical difficulties right now.
Yeah, and we're working on the sound. We have our sound engineers company working with us to see if we can get away with that echo and so that everybody can hear us adequately. So we apologize. We did have a meeting at 5 o'clock and we reorganized. So this takes us into the agenda for the regular Board of Supervisors meeting. Does anyone wish to make a motion to amend or accept the agenda as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Dean, second that motion?
Yes, sir.
Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Do we need to take, let's go with the December 9th meeting, the regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors for those minutes. Is there any corrections or questions for those December 9th minutes?
None from me.
I'll make a motion we approve the minutes from December the 9th as presented.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. About December 12th, the special road meeting, which we reviewed, we went through and I read where we got 75% of our roads inspected. That was a pretty good shot. We were out for hours doing that. So any corrections or questions on the minutes?
No corrections.
I make a motion, we accept those minutes as presented. So second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 December 16th, 2025, that's the joint meeting that we had with Planning Commission to discuss, it was a work session to discuss the data center situations that we have within the township. Is there any corrections or questions pertaining to those minutes?
None from me.
I'll make a motion we accept the December 16th joint meeting with the Planning Commission as presented.
I'll second the motion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Aye. Okay, at this time we're going to go into public comments, but I'm going to request that the public make comments on anything that is not reflected on our agenda, because we will be discussing some data center stuff during our solicitor's report, and after the solicitor's report, and I will give ample time for discussion at that time. We'll wait down through there. So is there any public comments about anything non-agenda related right now?
Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. A couple questions. I want to follow up with you guys about the thing I brought up about getting rid of the per capita tax, and if you guys have made any decisions on that or thought about that.
Yeah, we have been in discussions. Like I spoke with the tax collector about it. She also agrees that it's one of those ones that we could do away with. If we went away with it, she would also not get her stipend anymore, which she's completely fine with. So that's one of those things that it's not going to go away for 26, but for 27, we would end up doing this towards the end of the year when we do budget and everything. But yes, yep, that's definitely on my schedule and plan to hopefully eliminate that.
Awesome.
Okay? Yep.
And this is for everyone because I don't understand or know. Why do we have two separate fire departments that are less than a mile apart and split resources instead of having one location? It's just something that kind of boggles my mind.
It's interesting discussion. I know that I was educated on that by a gentleman in the audience a while back. So history plays an important part. But as we just commissioned the, what is it, the DCED
DEC,
study?
yeah.
I always get the acronym wrong. But there was a study underway to address that issue and find out what we should do along, and the boroughs have signed up for it as well.
Okay. That's not a shot. I don't know anybody from either department. It's just
Well, that's a great question.
doesn't make a lot of sense. That's all. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
I can't remember. It was November, I think it was. And in the minutes, when I read them, it was said that I accused the township or the board about misusing American Rescue Fund money. That makes it sound like you did something illegal, which you didn't do, or you'd be in trouble for it. So I think that needs to be corrected, that I accused you of misusing it. I think it was misused, but anyhow, that's here and there. But last month,
No, wait a minute. You just said you didn't accuse us. Now you just said it was misused. So
well,
you're
I
accusing us
feel, in
now.
my opinion, I feel it was misused, but you're putting it out publicly that I said that you basically said that you misused them illegally.
Okay, all right. I feel that she did just go ahead.
But anyhow, it's here or there. It's in there. It's out. So it doesn't really matter. I think December's meeting there was a thing on the agenda, and I couldn't make it because of work. But about from Eagle Fire Company about reimbursement for a property. How did that ever turn out?
We denied that request.
Okay, it was because it wasn't a budgeted item.
Yep, that's one of the reasons why it wasn't a budgeted item. They didn't put it in time for us to anticipate it in our 26 budget. Number two, that we are going through a fire study, so we want to wait and see what that fire study reveals.
I'll go report on that then.
Okay, and Darryl has a report on that.
So there was, in the past, was there given to one or the other?
In the past, we had an abundance of funds in our donation end of it, and we did buy properties for Union Fire Hall. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Thank you, Scott. Okay. Seeing none, we're going to move on to special requests. Are there any, Christy?
No special requests tonight.
Okay. Emergency services report. Chief.
Good evening.
You want to give her your name? You got it.
I didn't even know this wasn't. Joseph Stevens.
I'm sorry.
Joseph Stevens, that's an EDD. I'm the top clerk.
Thank you.
You catch me off guard here.
You know what? No, we don't have a mic out there right now. Can you? I didn't catch it with you, Scott, or Mike. Sorry about that.
Test. There we are.
You guys speak loud enough though that I'm sure it caught. It caught.
Good evening. So my understanding with the holidays and everything, you probably didn't get a copy of the report in time for the meeting tonight. For the month of November, 34 calls, estimated loss $515,035, no firefighter injuries and no civilian injuries. I only have Union's report. I did not receive a report from Eagle Fire Company or from Wellspan EMS. Quite truthfully, we haven't gotten a report from either of them. Longer for Wellspan. I don't think Wellspan's reported in probably the last 10 months.
I think that, and I'd have to go back and look in the minutes, but sometime along 2025, I think the board came at peace with they're separate. We don't contribute to them. And so I think them reporting to us was just a courtesy.
I think it's important
Okay.
because the fire departments are running more and more medical assist calls where they're calling us out to do their lifting and or they're not available, I'm assuming because they're on calls, and we're filling the gap until another EMS unit gets there.
Who replaced Chad?
That's a very good question.
Because that's who used to send them.
Right. I am not aware that he has been replaced, not saying he hasn't,
Okay.
but it hasn't been made public, and it certainly hasn't trickled down to the municipalities they serve. So
Okay.
I can inquire
Okay.
and go further with that, but they haven't reported in quite some time. My
Okay.
understanding, Manchester Borough gets just a number. We did 25 calls in Manchester Borough. That's like no statistical data or anything, so.
Okay. Yep. If you find that out, let me know, and I can also try to
I
figure
think
it out.
it's important information,
Yeah.
especially in planning and preparedness type things.
I remember when I first stopped getting reports from him, I remember inquiring about it, and I wasn't hearing anything from him. I was getting ghosted pretty much.
Right.
So, yeah, we can definitely try.
I'll follow up. Again, I don't know how the hierarchy has changed there
Okay.
with his departure, but we'll look at it.
Very good.
We're coming in on the tail end of what was a very busy year. I can tell you in the past 3 weeks, I've assisted with 2 fire investigations with the Pennsylvania State Police Fire Marshal, York County Regional Police Department fire investigator, and fire insurance investigator. Had a representative from ISO reach out, so we're in the middle of collecting a lot of data for ISO. I'm meeting with him on Wednesday. And, of course, the DCED evaluator, met with him and pulling all kinds of information for them. So it's been very busy and what will become a very busy next couple of weeks in total, so.
Chief, I have a question.
Sure.
I noticed on your report that I think it was 23% of your calls is being EMS assist.
That does, it says rescue and emergency medical services, so that does include vehicle accidents, those type of calls. I can try and break that down further for you, but I can tell you the number of EMS, or what we call medical assist calls, is up. We routinely get called out because they need assistance lifting patients.
So what about, I see that you assist the police calls at times. That's for, I assume.
Yeah,
vehicle
most of those
accidents.
are logged, they're where fire police are requested for traffic control.
That takes a lot of your time.
It does, and I gotta tell you, the 2 biggest things that are up this year are EMS calls and fire police calls.
I noticed that. And I just wanted to make sure that they're not taking advantage of volunteers.
They
Unduly
most certainly are.
advantage. Yeah.
And it's not just our local police department, it's neighboring municipalities as well. Traffic's increased, we have a lot of truck traffic, and as soon as there's something that's even minor, there's no place for the traffic to go. So it gets dumped off on the volunteers to come out and control traffic, and sometimes that's controlling traffic for hours on end.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions I have? Any other questions?
Your busiest time per se for calls is what time? I mean, in a generalized there. Day, night, middle of the night.
That's hard to say. I mean, it's a pretty good split, 50-50. I think daytime weekdays is rapidly becoming more busy.
You're working nights or slow
Right.
right now, and being around that, I mean, that's everybody's lot during that.
Right. So it's hard to say. I mean, there's ebbs and flows, you know.
Right.
Sometimes
There's a
it's
specific.
running all-night calls and,
Monday, daytime.
right.
Monday through Friday, daytime seems like.
I think the majority of the problem is businesses are at their peak or occupied daytime. Traffic is heavier, truck traffic, car traffic is heavier, people coming and going to work, that type of thing, daytime. So the daytime is where it's starting to creep up, but
So it's safe to say that percentage of your personnel on duty is low during the daytime and higher during off hours.
correct.
Yeah.
It's a day shift world.
Yeah. Okay.
Any
Any
other
questions for Chief?
None for me.
Did you read the article about West Manchester Township and what they're doing about bringing part-timers on?
I did, and for them, that is a long time coming. That should have been done years ago, but their township board was resistant to paying people.
stuff.
So hopefully that type of issue will be discussed in our study that we're doing. So, yes.
Can you turn
Two
your mic
comments.
on?
One, congratulations on, oh, it went off. Congratulations on your retirement, your real job. Secondly,
Why is that?
the co-stars, excuse me, do they offer fire equipment for, apparatuses that you would need? Do they offer anything, or is it certain makes and models?
They have certain things. So things like if we wanted to buy or needed to purchase a utility truck, a pickup truck,
Yep.
an SUV for a duty vehicle, stuff like that, we can get through CoStars. But outside of that, no, they're not.
Okay.
Not with
I was just curious.
and truthfully, and I ran headlong into this in my former life where I was employed. The CoStars isn't what it used to be.
Yep.
So they're making money now too. It's while it's worthwhile to investigate CoStars, they're not always the least expensive option anymore.
Okay.
There, I'd like to use back to the basic food stores and state contract, not necessarily be the best price. If you want to get a good price, if it's a lead fee, you have to get bids from everything.
They offer a stock,
Right, well, yeah.
then you still gotta build it up to what you need.
While it wasn't CoStars a year or so ago, we purchased the Dodge Durango to replace our duty vehicle. And that came in on the tail end of a PSP contract.
Okay.
So we were able to take advantage of a better pricing there. We bought off a fleet. And
All right, thank you. I do have comments I want to read, just to clarify.
Thanks, Chief.
Discussion about the request from from Eagle Fire Company. I wasn't here for the December meeting, I apologize for that, but anyways, the request came into the township. It was dated 11/1. The township received it on November the 10th from President Stephen Trott of Eagle Fire Company. And basically, it was the Eagle Fire Company is happy to share a successful transaction and purchase of 42 South 2nd Street in Malville Borough. As previously reported in last year's budget projections for the borough and township, we expressed the need to acquire this property while understanding the future needs of the property and our failing structure that is part of our current engine bay. This has been part of the projected plan for the last many years. We as dedicated volunteers are asking for your generosity in helping us pay for the property through reimbursement. We appreciate your generosity and consideration for this as you provided to the same for the Union Fire Company. As volunteers serving you, we understand that selling chicken barbecue and hosting bingo will most definitely not provide the level of funding needed for the future of our volunteer operations as we grow and optimize our equipment for the ever-growing needs of the township. The cost of the property was $125,000. And then, of course, as you heard on the December 9th Board of Supervisors meeting, that request was denied. And our township manager responded on December the 17th to President Trott. Says at the Board of Supervisors regular meeting held on December 9th, 2025, the board voted to deny Eagle Fire Company No. 1's request of $125,000 to reimburse the acquisition of property located at 42 South 2nd Street. The board's decision was based on the following considerations. One, the reimbursement request was received via email the day prior to the November board meeting. At that time, the township's 2026 proposed budget had already been drafted during the October 22nd budget meeting and subsequently advertised, leaving no opportunity for the appropriate review or consideration within the budget process. The township, along with both boroughs, is currently engaged with the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development in a comprehensive fire services study. The board believes that it is prudent to wait until the results of the recommendations of this study before making any significant financial commitments related to fire service or capital assets. There's also an understanding among the Board of Township staff that in the event Mount Wolf Fire Company were to dissolve, its assets would revert to Mount Wolfboro rather than the township. As such, the board has concerns that approving this request could result in the township funding the purchase of a property that would ultimately belong to another municipality. If this understanding is incorrect, please provide documentation or evidence clarifying the disposition of assets. Additionally, while not determining factor in the denial, the board has expressed concern regarding the timely submission of required reports. The township did not receive a report for the December board meeting, and to our knowledge, a report has also not been submitted for January 5th meeting by the stated deadline of noon yesterday on the date that the email was sent. And the township provides substantial annual financial support. The fire board also has a responsibility to ensure accountability and appropriate use of public funds. The decision back in 2023 to reimburse what Union Fire Company bought, we had budgeted money and we had extra money left over in the fire services budget. That's why at that time it was approved for the Union Fire Company, but this time we had no prior knowledge of this, we had no prior requests, so we did not budget for anything, and on top of that, we're concerned because we did raise taxes to make these financial matters. So I just wanted to get it on record. That's the background of what happened while the request was denied.
Okay, thank you for that, Darrell. And while you're on a roll, do you have anything to report York County Regional?
Yes, he promoted 5 corporals due to the transition of and retirements and everything. But that was about the big item in promotions for the York County Area Regional Police Department.
Okay. Thank you for that. That moves us on to 6.3, Northeastern York County Emergency Management. Is there any report or any?
Not a report. He sent an update recently, and he was basically saying that he is preparing for tabletop drills, and he was saying that county is holding a countywide tabletop drill in August of 26 with an actual full-scale drill in November of 2026. And with that focus being on TMI, everyone is preparing for TMI to reopen. And he said, as always, we're looking for more help and more volunteers. So if anyone's interested, please let us know, and then we can, let Mike know. His name is Mike Fisher, and he's our coordinator for emergency management. That's all I have for Mike's report.
Okay, if any of the board is interested, there is an elected official seminar on emergency management going to be held out at the county's office on February 21st. So let Christy know if you're interested in attending that. Okay. That takes us down to 7.1, subdivision and land development plan. This plan was previously tabled on December 9th, Trade Center 83 East. And Josh, we're going to ask everybody to make sure that they speak into the microphone so everyone can hear us out there.
And I do
Streaming
have the plans. They're in the folder on a thumb drive that I have open right now. So I'm hoping that it's still, you might just have to awake the screen if you need to use it, okay? So then I'm not doing what we did last meeting. Very good.
So I'm sorry, Chris.
Josh, are you going to be using it? Do you know? Okay, well then I'm going to connect that HDMI right now. It's in that file folder right there at the bottom of the screen. Is it dual screen?
Let's try it on this screen.
It's dual screen. Yeah, you'll have to drag it over then, Josh. Unfortunately. Or you can keep the folder on your screen and then just pull the PDFs over. Or yes, we can do that as well. Do you want to help or okay?
I see what you're saying, but extend or
No, I don't think you can make it simultaneous display, right? Wasn't that the issue?
Yeah, you can do that.
Okay.
I think right now
And
it's
just
set up
change the
on
display
dual.
setting to be simultaneous.
Mm-hmm.
Don't extend it.
There we go. Thank you.
Well done.
Very good.
Well, good evening, happy new year, members of the board and township staff. My name is Chris Fensel, Vice President of Development for Hillwood. Tonight we are presenting to you Hillwood's third project in the township, Trade Center 83 East. It's a 1.7 million square foot 3-building industrial warehouse development in or along the 200 block of Zions View Road. We appeared before the Planning Commission in November and received a recommendation for preliminary plan approval. We also appeared before the Board of Supervisors on December 9th. We discussed at the time the several waivers plan, and we received some positive feedback there. We also went into, I think, great detail the plan, technical comments and the off-sites, and we are here tonight to continue that discussion. We are asking for approval of the preliminary subdivision and land development plan, as well as the waivers requested. The plan was tabled last month due to review and discussion of the development conditions. We've made some progress on those, and we're prepared to discuss this evening. So we do have the development team here tonight. Josh Hoffman with Benoni Engineers is the civil engineer of record. John Seitz with ERG, our traffic consultant, and Charlie Sir with Stevens and Lee, our land use counsel. So with that, I will turn it over to Josh.
So where do you want to start, Josh?
Good evening, Josh Hoffman with Benoni. Thank you, Chris. As Chris mentioned, we were here last month to give a presentation of the entire plan, but I know Mr. Albright wasn't here, so we have to go over a little bit more plan specifics here, and then we can discuss the waivers if that works. As Chris mentioned, this is it's a 3-building warehouse distribution facility located along Zions View Road, which is at the bottom of your screen there. The property consists of about, I think there's 3 existing parcels, about 238 acres. We are taking those parcels and subdividing them into 5 different parcels, 3 development tracts with 3 separate buildings, 2 residual tracts which will be on the eastern side of the stream, and it kind of bisects the property just to the right of the 3 buildings there. So the 2 residual parcels remain undeveloped, and then the three specific parcels, one has each building.
Josh, is the mic on? Oh, the pointer. Okay, yeah, no, that pointer doesn't work. Yeah. But then, Josh, if you can, just use the mouse to show everyone. Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Got it. So Zions View Road, located along the southern portion of the property here. This is our main access point right here that comes into the site. This is being designed as a private access drive, just to serve the 3 different facilities. We're also providing an emergency access only, a gated emergency access onto Manchester Street to the north. So we have frontage along Manchester Street as well as Zionsview Road. The existing DHL facility is kind of located where my house is circling right here. So it's immediately adjacent to it. And then, as I mentioned, these would be the two residual parcels of land to remain undeveloped. Our portion of the project, the development portion, is located in the industrial district, so it's used by right in the township ordinance. And then this, you get into the borough as you get just to the east of the plan sheet here. So as part of our project, we're proposing to extend. There's an existing cul-de-sac, Bartlett Drive, kind of just off the page here, which is basically where I'm pointing, and then we're extending that, which extends here to create a four-way intersection at our driveway and Zionsview Road. So it'll become a four-way intersection, all subject to PennDOT approval, going through the HOP process. With PennDOT, which is a very lengthy effort. So even beyond this plan, we would be going through that entire process and effort with PennDOT, before coming back and being back before you with the final plan. So we've designed the plan, we've accommodated the improvements that, ultimately required by the township, as far as widening and curving, frontage improvements and things of that nature, in addition to extending Bartlett Drive. We've gone before, we've submitted our outside agency approvals, the NPDS permit, all of those things are under review and going through those processes with the agency's conservation district, sewer planning, all those things are in the process, so we understand those things would be conditions of approval, and coming back to the final plan. So really, I think, a lot of the things that we've done, we discussed it at the last meeting, we've provided a variety of, buffers along the property, landscape berms and buffers. I'm not showing the landscape plan now, but there's landscaping being proposed all along Zionsview Road in this location. There's landscaping all along the eastern part of our property, as I'm kind of panning to the north here. Landscaping buffers all along there, and then there's buffers all provided along the Manchester Street frontage here, in addition to the northwestern portion of the property in this location here. I know we've shared those buffers and shared those in all of our submissions. We agreed to extend the buffer. Mr. Neal, I know we talked about that the last meeting. We haven't resubmitted the full plan at this point, but we agreed to extend the buffer all along Zionsview Road, basically up to where the wetlands, where we're limited to where we can actually plant the trees. Some of that will be contingent upon we have to work through the HOP improvements and maybe shift them horizontal a little bit to accommodate the roadway improvements. But it's our intention to add the additional landscaping. We also provided some landscaping. There's a retaining wall along Manchester Street here in order to make the site grading work. We provided additional landscaping to the front of that retaining wall to help kind of soften the actual wall itself. But I think, in summary, that's kind of where we're at, and you mentioned the 7 waivers that we talked in length the last meeting. I think we had a good conversation about this, but I'm happy to just walk through them one by one if that works.
Yeah.
Okay. First waiver was section 208-34A, regarding the plan sheet size, required to be 18 by 24 or 24 by 36. We're requesting a waiver to make it down 30 by 42, which is what's shown on the screen. Simple request because that provides that's an 82 sheet plan set with 30 by 42. You can essentially double that if you went with a smaller sheet size. So waiver number 1. Waiver number 2, section 208-44F. Top or bottom edge of the slope should be a minimum of 10 feet. To the adjacent property line. This is really in relation to we are neighbors with DHL. There's an existing easement to provide grading between these two properties. The easement runs from about where I'm pointing here all along the property line with DHL and towards the northern portion of this property here. So we're really only requesting a waiver to do a grade within a certain distance of the property line, but it's limited to that location. So it's a partial waiver. Okay, section 208-46B1. This is regarding subdivisions of basically widening improvements along the roadway. So we're proposing improvements all along our frontage from the existing DHL driveway to the east. We're proposing improvements all along here. Our land development plan essentially ends right at this location here, and we're not. So our improvements are ending, kind of where I'm pointing here roughly. And then we are requesting a waiver of frontage improvements, or widening essentially along our property frontage, which is along Manchester Street. We're not providing access to Manchester Street. We want to keep that road in its existing condition the way it is today. So that's the partial waiver request for that waiver. And then section 208-46J, this is regarding our driveway. The waiver request is really, it's regarding private streets, cannot serve more than one property. In this case, typically that would be a township street, so we're proposing a private access driveway into our site to be owned and maintained privately. So if that were a township street, the township would have to maintain that. It would be a cul-de-sac street, which would essentially just serve all properties. So the request is that we get a waiver of that so that it can be a private driveway to share with more than one property. Section 208-47. This is similar to the widening improvements. This is regarding curbs and sidewalks. We're proposing curb and sidewalk kind of from where I'm pointing to the DHL driveway, all to the east here along Zion View Road, curb and sidewalk along the road frontage, and then we're going to propose the crossing and extend sidewalk improvements with the Bartlett Drive extension. There's an existing sidewalk that goes back to the existing cul-de-sac on Bartlett Drive now. We would extend that sidewalk to connect, basically connect the picture to along Zion View Road. So our waiver request is regarding the frontage essentially along Manchester Street. Once again, we're not improving the roadway itself. So partial waiver request. Section 208-64, regarding utilities, and really specific to overhead utilities. It's regarding electric and communications and whatnot. The request is that we believe this building that I'm pointing to here, building 3 and building 2, will be served by power lines and communication lines from a pole or 2 along Manchester Street. So the request is to be able to put an overhead line into the site to some point where it then comes underground and complies with the ordinance. We think the larger building here will be served with power from one of the existing poles along Zion View Road. So that will automatically be, underground from one of those poles into probably the midpoint of the building somewhere here. So the request is really just for, it talks about all utilities being underground. It's a partial waiver to apply, basically construct a few poles with overhead lines to come into the site. And then the 7th waiver, 208-31A, 2A21. This is regarding providing a separate sketch plan for respective street layout for the residual tracks. So as I mentioned, we have 2 residual tracks, this one being one that has frontage along Zion View Road. Then there's a residual track up here that would have frontage along Manchester Street. We're requesting a waiver to provide a sketch plan of the street layout for no development that's going to occur at this point. In lieu of that, there's a note that will be provided on the plan that speaks to when those properties are developed. That they would have to do it at that time, essentially. So the waiver request really for us is not to provide a sketch plan at this point. So those are the 7 waivers that we have. So I think at this point, that's kind of a brief overview of where we were from the last meeting to tonight. So we'll be happy to answer any questions from anyone.
I asked the board any changes of opinions on those 7 waivers. I think we hashed them out pretty hard last time.
I think the only thing was number 2, the setbacks. You said it's so long where you border DHL. Should
Yeah,
that clarification or limitation just be added to that?
It could. We wouldn't allow that anywhere else but right there.
And you said it in It should just be documented somewhere, beyond verbal, if that's all right.
Yeah, and there's an existing easement in place, so I think we can reference that, we have that easement shown on the plan,
Okay.
so we can.
Yeah, so there's no ambiguity if down the road. That'd be appreciated.
Dean, can you turn on that microphone over there, please? Other way.
Yeah.
Yep,
Andy's.
thank you.
Okay, so with that in mind, I'm going to get right into the meat of the issue. Josh, can you increase the size of that, zero in on the intersection, or do you have a detailed plan of your intersection there?
I have detailed plans.
Oh, right.
I think it's loading.
Guess the AI data center's not working hard enough.
We have another. That might be the one I want to use. Alright, this is the one loading.
Okay.
There we go. Is that good? You want me to try to zoom in a little bit more?
No, I think that's adequate. All I ask is PennDOT going to allow four-way stop? No. So, I see this as a revised. It has the stop bars removed on Design's View, and just the stop bars on Bartlett and your driveway. I think I can speak for our engineer and Shane and the board that we can't come up with a better solution for that intersection. I think that design really encourages people to head west on Science View.
Can we ask one question now?
Yeah.
Why does PennDOT not allow the four-way stop sign? What's their rationale? And I think you said it the last time, I just like to do it again. Please.
Joint sites with transportation resource group, JOM, SEI,
Yeah, always stop signs are regulated by PennDOT, really through the MUTCD. It's the Manual for Uniform Traffic Control Devices. It's a very specific manual, and it does give warrants for always stop control. Generally, always stop control is based on volume warrants, that there needs to be so much traffic coming through an intersection. And many times, for instance, if you have an intersection that's very close to warranting a signal, but it doesn't quite warrant a signal, in that instance, that would be a very good candidate for an always stop sign. There's some other criteria. You need to have like 300 cars traveling through on the main line, 200 cars per hour traveling on the side streets.
It's really about traffic movement.
It's really about traffic movement, traffic volumes, and there's some other criteria that we use. We really tried to finesse it and really tried to make it work. This came from discussions with township staff. We personally thought it was a good idea. We were on board with this too.
At
This
the end of
came.
the day, PennDOT follows
Yes.
MUTCD and their guidelines, and
That's
they're basically saying there's not sufficient traffic volume today.
that's really what they're saying.
And so, as this gets filled out, we have provisions for traffic studies within our
We
development,
do, but
right?
realistically, I don't think we're ever going to see those levels of traffic that would warrant it. I really don't.
I appreciate the background. I think that's important for folks to understand as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, well, before you leave there, John, the design of that intersection, that's all, it's okay for now. But what he just alluded to, in the future, if things blow up there, we get a lot more traffic, and they do allow for a traffic light, which you're gonna escrow money in case there is a traffic light there. That intersection design is not adequate for a traffic light.
Well, it really is adequate for a traffic design, that we would have the turn lanes on the main line. It really would work out if it were a traffic signal, that we could adapt that very easily and make that into a traffic signal if it ever were warranted. I really honestly truly believe there will never the level of traffic on Zines View Road, it's between 4,000 to 5,000 vehicles per day. That may sound a lot, but generally where you see traffic signals, you're talking 10, 15, 20,000 vehicles per day on those kind of roadways. It's really a lot different here. It's just not those levels of traffic, and I don't believe we will ever see that level of traffic. We do have the Orchard Business Park, all those businesses parked for Starbucks, everything, it's already built out. So we know how much traffic already goes in and out. It's really not going to grow because we already know and can see how much is coming in Willow Springs Lane, how much is coming in from Espresso. So we know how much traffic is coming in and out. So we know that leg is not really going to generate more traffic than what we forecasted because we can count and we know what's there. Also, for our leg of the intersection, we know the size of our development. We know from IT trip generation manual how much traffic comes in and out. And I will say this, that as things get more efficient, traffic does not increase at these developments because of the efficiencies, the robotics, the gains in productivity that we're seeing. So in industrial settings, we're not seeing additional traffic because of things like robotics and other things like that. So I really, feel very certain that a signal will not be needed there. But if it were, I really do believe we could put a signal in there with not too many adjustments to it.
Okay, I can appreciate your viewpoint on that of not seeing enough traffic there and stuff, but you got to understand my point of view. I thought I'd never see warehouses between Science View Road and Manchester Street either, and it's happening. So we got to plan for every contingency. My question to you is, the township's desire not to have truck traffic go into the borough. Mm-hmm. Because we have trouble with the intersection up there at Working Board. Mm-hmm. We have all kind of problems. Would it be possible for you to work your magic and prohibit traffic going east on Zines View Road from Bartlett to York Street? Allow it westbound, but no truck traffic going east.
That is something that I think the township and PennDOT would have to talk about, and even Manchester Borough. I think that may be something, in our discussions with PennDOT, what PennDOT relayed to us was that 921 would be available for trucks. I think that's something that may need elevated, like I said, between the municipalities and directly with PennDOT, and maybe that discussion would work out better. We have tried, we have tried, and we're trying to come up with the best plan we can to limit it and certainly facilitate trucks in the north-south direction on Bartlett. That we want to encourage trucks to go on Bartlett and not continue down to Board Road and York Street. So we definitely want to encourage that north-south on Bartlett and discourage anything on York Street, Board Road. But I think it's really PennDOT. PennDOT is really the decision maker.
Understood. So in order to encourage, would it be something as simple as a sign saying straight across to go
Well,
to 83 north?
Absolutely. It's sign, you know, we need to have good signage there too. The 283 signs are very, very important.
But again, MTCD has some oversight of that as well. does
It
not?
does, but getting the two ID3 signs, those we can do and shouldn't have any problem getting those. I don't think we're going to get any pushback from that. I think PennDOT's going to be okay with that. But as far as prohibiting trucks, I think that's where PennDOT may get into some pushback. And like I said, that could be something that the township, the borough, and PennDOT could have a powwow on.
Would Hillwood consider doing that study for us? And then if it did pass, then we
I don't
would
think-
pass an ordinance?
I don't think there's going to be a study that would say, if there's a need for trucks, Act 31 of 2017 really granted trucks could be on virtually every road in Pennsylvania unless they're restriction. And what PennDOT's saying is there's no good reason to have a restriction there. In fact, they're saying there's a need for trucks there. So I think it's something that, like I said, I think Manchester Borough needs to be involved, East Manchester Township, PennDOT, to talk and see if a plan could come up for that.
Okay.
Because we not only need signage, we need the resolution saying that we can enforce that. And without the enforcement, we have no hammer. But I think that would cure, if we had no trucks beyond this point going eastbound, I think would do a lot of big help.
If this were a township road,
Yeah, I know.
I think we could do that, but our problem is PennDOT. You know, that it's SR 921, it's a state road, and whenever it's a state road, PennDOT's going to have their say, and I think that's the issue. PennDOT is telling us right now, hey, we really think that's an appropriate truck road. We don't necessarily agree with that, but that's what PennDOT's telling us.
And it's all based on analysis of data over time, and I get that, but I want to take a half step back to the stoplight question warrants. Where does the warrants come into play for stop signs? Because you're talking about current traffic movement today, north-south on 921. Ultimately, there'll be some east-west once part of the road gets connected, coming in and out of there, right?
And we have forecasted that. We've
Right.
taken a look at the traffic that does come in on Willow Springs Lane, comes in on Espresso, and we forecasted that. We've modeled it. We've moved traffic around to where we think it's going to go, where it's logically going to go.
Right.
You know, if it's coming from Manchester, you know, we figure it's going to come this way. So we've really looked at that and modeled that. So we do feel we have a good handle on the level of traffic that is coming in and out.
Again, you said stoplights were 10, 15, 20,000 vehicle trips a day. What is it for a stop sign? Because we're at what you said was like 4,000
Well,
trips.
that's
vehicle
for
trips a day.
the stop control, for the always stop control, you'd be looking at like 300 vehicle trips an hour and about 200 vehicle trips an hour on the side street.
streets.
And
Okay.
we're not getting
With 4,000 a day, you're not even close to that.
those levels, and you know that's per hour.
Yeah,
So
I'm with you.
so we're not getting those levels of traffic.
But if
right
a
now.
traffic study then shows that that's occurring, then that creates,
That
that shows
it could.
evidence that a warrant would be justified.
It certainly could, yes.
Okay. Sorry, Dave.
No, that's fine. So I think Plan B then, John, if PennDOT would not agree to limit and prohibit trucks going east, we need to do something up there at that intersection of Ward and Science View. And I think that's PennDOT's problem.
I think once again, the signage, there is a restriction that East Manchester Township has on Board Road, that is you're traveling northbound on Board Road. I know there's a size restriction on trucks that once you get past Willow Springs Lane, the next intersection, Bayshore School Road, right at Bayshore School Road, there's a truck restriction beyond that. I think there could be some kind of, certainly signage, trucks, no turns. I think there's certainly some signage that could be added to that intersection to help make sure that trucks do not turn onto York Street or Board Road.
I'm thinking more of a physical barrier, like they put across the street on that corner. I don't know what kind of physical barrier that would be, but we got to dissuade trucks from turning right there somehow, because they're breaking the law. Number one, we can't afford to have a cop there all day, every day, writing them up.
I think what you'd probably be looking at is we call it the truck curb, and the truck curb is the high curb. A normal curb, is about a foot above the street level. The truck curb goes up about 2 feet higher. It's almost like a mini Jersey barrier.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what.
Oh, like the one that's out there
Yeah,
across from.
with razor wire on top. Yeah.
I think that's what you'd be looking at. I will say this, what it does, that's probably what you'd be looking at, along with signage to reinforce that, trucks just can't turn. It's illegal for trucks to turn, and
I think that would be our fallback if we can't restrict truck traffic going eastbound. But I want to do our due diligence and try and prevent trucks from going where we don't want them to go, and that's like herding cats. It's hard to do. So I'm just trying to think of remedies for that. And Byron, please, and Shane, jump in.
I've been thinking of something, since got the comment letter from PennDOT. And I think PennDOT's made the argument for the township on two of their comments. They said, we can't put a four-way intersection because, and they refer to controlling the speed. That's what they refer to there. We're not trying to control the speed. Okay, and the second part there, they said, well, they've approved intersections at other places in the township that, that work. Well, they don't work. We've already proven that the trucks ignore, they're, and I'm assuming they said Zion, they referred to Zion's View Road, so it would be the Garrett site. So we know the trucks are ignoring the signs and turning right and things like that there. So, PennDOT's made two comments saying, do you need this, this, and this? And we have documentation that it doesn't work. So, I don't know if we're done talking with PennDOT, but I think we need to bring this up, is that you referred to something to speed there. Well, we're not trying to control the speed. We're trying to control the traffic to which way it goes. And the second part is, the design of this, if we change it up to, we know the trucks are going to go where their GPS tells them to go, and we're done. So, again, I agree with the board here. The design that you guys had come up with, I think, was a great design.
Yeah.
So, it just made sense. And in the perfect world here, once again, we're dealing with PennDOT, and common sense just doesn't seem to.
I will say this, that we have some time to work on, that this HOP is not, it's we wish it was an instant thing. It's not. It's a long process. We will need to go through, and we certainly can work with the township on that, and do what we can do to help out.
I'm not naive in thinking that if we restrict trucks from going eastbound on Zion View Road, that's going to stop them. Because the only recourse we have is signage, and they don't, so physical barriers up there at that intersection to force those trucks not to turn right, but to go to Thornton and use the truck-approved intersection up there. That was the ultimate plan. So we all have to get our heads together and think of something that we can do that would appease PennDOT. It always comes down to that.
Agreed.
Okay.
Just back to Christie's point, Hillwood would be willing to fund a truck restriction study, provided the township and the borough participate in it. The initial feedback we received from PennDOT is, well, you can do the study, but it probably won't change things.
Yeah.
But if that gets us to a next level of conversation with PennDOT, we're willing to make that happen.
Thank you.
I think what we need to do, and we've done it before in different projects, is have a sit down or an on-site visit with PennDOT and all parties. And I'd like to ask them point blank why.
Do we have the right people from PennDOT? Because I assume, we're in District 8, I believe, right?
Yeah.
And so do you have the folks from District 8 showing up, or do you have the folks that you're dealing with that might be sitting at a desk up in Harrisburg or somewhere else, that doesn't actually see the site, walk the ground type of deal? That always makes a difference in my opinion.
Okay, Christie, I think we're done talking about that intersection. We beat that pretty hard.
Awesome, great, glad I missed that.
Yeah.
We're going to create a flyover.
So what's next? What do we want to discuss next? We just want to go into different things, like I want to discuss about construction timing with this project. Is it premature to talk about that?
Maybe what we should do is maybe go down what's open and then we can get into great depths, because I think this does touch base on like the construction portion and stuff. So maybe this is where we can dive deeper into a lot of the bigger ticket items, and some of the stuff we already talked about in the last meeting. But we can just go down, and list these items.
So we'll go down through like 1A, 1B, and then if any of the board members or our staff has any questions, we'll pose them to you then. So do you want to do it, or do you want me to go down through it?
Well, this will actually be on our draft conditional approval letter that Attorney Miller drew up based off of the open comments that were had at the last meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll let Charlie.
Charlie,
No, this isn't the most recent stuff. This is
No.
our last bit of comments.
Right. Yeah, this isn't a public document yet.
Okay.
Hi, good evening, Charlie, sir, counsel for the project, from Stevens and Lee. Been working with Attorney Miller as well as staff on the, trying to clarify the, what we call the conditions of approval that are set forth in the letter. And the last one came out over the weekend, and I think we're in agreement with most of these. I think I had six points of clarification. Some of them are minor, some of them are a little bit more. So as they're written, we should be good with most of them, but we have to talk about a couple of them. So the first one is the 1A. There should be a development agreement, which is going to provide for the widening improvements design road towards PennDOT approval permit, PennDOT HOP permit. That's certainly fine as written. We have no issues with that. Number 2, which is 1B. We talked about this, about the driveway intersection on here. As is written, we agree with the extension of Bartlett Drive to the intersection with Zions View Road. That's certainly fine. We understand the township prefers the intersection to include 4 stop signs in both directions on Zions View Road. We, of course, would like to have that also. The only issue that I have the way it's written right now, it says that the extension will be at a 4-wheel drive intersection with the access drive for the project. I don't know that we can agree to that now because PennDOT is indicating that they may not approve that. We certainly will aim for that, but I'd like to just keep that vague until we work through all this PennDOT process that we just had the discussions for. My concern is that PennDOT would say no, officially to come through here, and the condition of approval is that it has to be a four-way intersection, we have a problem.
You talking about construction, or are you talking about after it's finished?
This is just currently for construction, for approval of the plan. So in other words, the way it's written right now, for final plan approval, for us to record it, before it, we would have to have an HOP, which would provide for a four-way, the stop signs on all four lanes.
In order to start construction right now?
Yeah,
So
we
that's
don't
the
know where to
problem.
get that.
And they may make you enter from, what is it, the private drive that already exists on the property, I guess, at the top of the hill.
Well,
Well, it doesn't align with Bartlett Drive. Is
Well, it's construction as well as the operation, it's the whole thing. We have to show that we have an HOP for that intersection for us, for our operations. Right? The way it's written now, it says that has to say that there's 4 stop signs on there.
No, it just says it has to be a four-way intersection. It says the extension of Bartlett Drive to the intersection with Zions View Road at a four-way intersection with the access drive for the project. The township prefers the intersection includes stop signs in both directions on Zions View Road.
Okay, I guess we are on the same page. I mean, you drive, you reading it the whole time, you've been back in the whole time on that.
Yeah, and maybe that's the reason we kept going back and forth on it. The intention isn't, and it doesn't say that the four-way intersection just has to have stop signs, but I think it is important to the board that it be a four-way intersection. that
Yes.
it not be,
Okay.
the driveway not be offset from.
In the word I have underlined is prefers.
Yeah, that's fine. So we're good with that.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Number 1C has a variety of acknowledging of a condition to get an occupancy permit until there's several other improvements off-site are done primarily with the betterment project. I think one is a little bit beyond the betterment project. One of these guys probably would talk about it. We're okay with that as written on there right now. You want to go through that? We're sort of comfortable with it.
You're okay with the 4 conditions
Yes.
that are listed under 1C then?
Yep, that's fine.
Yeah, and as for issuing temporary certificates, I have underlined in its sole discretion. That's referring to.
That's right.
Yep.
Yes.
So, does the board want me to read what those conditions are for the public?
Please.
So the requirement in the development agreement and for the public's benefit, a lot of these PennDOT requirements or the conditions that relate to PennDOT are put in the development agreement because the PennDOT HOP plans are separate plans from this land development plan, and they can't be incorporated together. So we tie them together through a development agreement. The provision for this, or the provision in the development agreement for this, is that there be an acknowledgement in the development agreement that no occupancy permit will be issued until substantial completion of the Canal Road Betterment Project, which shall at a minimum include the entirety of Canal Road being in a passable 2-lane condition with no remaining lane closures. Number 2, the intersection of Canal Road and Regional Way constructed and open with no traffic restrictions on Canal Road at that intersection. Number 3, the bridge on Canal Road over Little Conewago Creek be constructed and open with no traffic restrictions. And number 4, the intersection improvements at Canal Road and Susquehanna Trail be constructed with no traffic restrictions. And then it just goes on to say, notwithstanding the above, if requested by developer, the township may, in the township's sole discretion, issue temporary certificates of occupancy prior to the substantial completion of Canal Road, provided the PennDOT HOP permit has been issued and road construction has commenced. There's a number of timing issues that go with those improvements to Canal Road as well. So the last sentence in there is to give the township some flexibility as to when they issue the occupancy permits based on the schedule of construction of Canal Road and how that's proceeding.
And Dave, didn't you have,
Yeah, I had some.
yeah,
I had a basic question because I'm thinking that the occupancy permit is not as critical to me as your construction timing. If we have Regional Way coming out to Canal Road, we have Hanover Company coming down and we're doing Expresso intersection. They're putting a bridge across Canal Road, and you're bringing trucks in, most likely Zions View Road, to go into your site. That concerns me about all this construction equipment going on at the same time.
Chris? Well,
I don't want your cement trucks running into each other.
so with the Canal Road project, there's a detour, or will be a proposed detour in place to utilize Regional Way. And so if construction traffic's coming from the west, it would utilize that Regional Way to Canal Road and come up Zions.
Okay, so you're saying you're not gonna start construction until a Regional Way is complete with Canal?
So the timing would likely be after that, but I can't say for certain that it wouldn't start in advance of that.
So we're back to square
So-
one.
Well, and maybe a general open condition on this letter, you know, to reflect something about a detour plan to come with the final land development plan or something, because we'll know better the timing of all of this by the time that happens.
I think we have tried to address it. If you look at item G in that section one,
Okay.
there's a requirement that construction traffic management be in accordance with the construction traffic plan approved as part of the Zions View Road HOP improvements. I don't know what could be modified with that or added that. This is a preliminary plan. A final plan has to be brought in yet. Things I think are moving forward with the Canal Road HOP permit. And hopefully, I don't know what your plan is for the timing of the final plan, but there will probably be more information when the final plan comes in front of the board as to what the timing of the Canal Road construction will be. Perhaps that could be addressed at the final plan stage, and Hillwood could present a construction.
I think we
traffic
know
plan.
much better at final plan where Canal Road construction schedule is. And then we can work with you on that construction traffic plan. But just, I think with our entitlement approval process or timeline, we probably won't complete work until, or get those necessary permits until the end of 26. So with a theoretical start in 27, which should time with the completion of the Canal Road improvements, but that's still a work in process that we have to figure out. So I'm hopeful that the timing will be such that those road improvements will be complete by the time we start construction, but there might be some overlap.
But we'll have another opportunity to review it, as you're saying, with the final plan submissions, right?
Yeah, and I would just note in there that that a traffic construction plan will be reviewed with the final plan, and address it at that time when the final plan comes in.
Because more time will pass and you'll have a better sense of where things are lining up then. That's what
Right.
I'm hearing, right?
So the initial sequence of the construction is mass grading, so the equipment would come in the way it does now to access Zions View Road. And then after a few months, then it gets into the building sequence where more trucks, the concrete trucks would come in. So and they come from a couple different points in York County. So I think we have more detail as we get closer to.
Chris, as far as your the layout, when will the final construction of Zines View Road and Bartlett be done? After your buildings are done, during, or before?
I'd say they both will complete at the same time. At least assuming we build the big building first,
Mhm.
that the road improvements would probably be complete at the completion of that.
Of at least one building? Okay.
Yeah, so we'll have a construction entrance along Zion's View. We may have two, maybe one at the main access, the other at the existing, or one of the existing driveways today.
Okay.
That's still TBD.
Yep.
Is that something that should be maybe put in here? The timing of the Bartlett opening?
And how would that relate again to the Canal Road improvements then?
No, I'm sorry, not for that item. I'm just, since Shane brought it up, it just struck my mind that, yeah, we didn't even address when would we want to see that finished and complete for Bartlett Drive opening?
What
Yeah.
kind of worried me, Andy, was if that stuff falls through, Canal Road project and everything, is that equipment coming back onto our roads then? Does that make sense, Chris? As far as your concrete trucks and all that
Yeah.
stuff, right away, brand new roads, you know what I mean? Like what?
So they would use what's there today.
What's there now?
So,
And the construction entrances stay on Zines View even for the other two buildings?
I
Or
don't
they
think so.
utilize your brand new driveway?
I don't think we would try to use Manchester for anything other than emergency purposes.
Right, okay. All right.
So are you suggesting then that intersection, the extension should be completed prior to occupancy of
The first
the
building,
building?
yeah,
I think so.
yeah. Yep,
And then we could at least do the initial and do an overlay after everything's complete. Because we would have to video the road to see if there's any damage from anything coming across that new road.
You could.
Yeah.
oh, yeah, that's a good point, Dave. Okay,
So we'd have to have that in the agreement, Andy, that we will Shane will video the road. And they could use the industrial area to come in through and come across Bartlett.
Would you say the Bartlett intersection be completed prior to tenant occupancy of the first building? Is that what,
That's what you're saying?
Yep.
right?
Yeah, that's
Yep.
that's would be the preference.
just add that in as a separate condition?
Or I
combine it
was
with
I was
something
gonna
else.
combine it with B, which talks about the
That's fine.
extension of Bartlett.
That's fine. Will the Bartlett intersection be completed prior to tenant occupancy of the first building?
okay,
Okay?
yep,
All right, the next one on here, this has to do with updated traffic impact assessments. There's certain time schedules at 2 years, 5 years, and 10 years afterward, based upon the ordinance. The original TIS, I believe, has an analysis for a 5-year window that we have, that's put in there right now. We didn't do more, understanding that the growth rates were so low that there would be virtually no additional information. However, based on the meeting, I think what you're looking for is after occupancy and it's being used, that there be a study done to show what's flowing. So what I'd like to propose on here is that as opposed to doing it for 2 years, 5 years after opening, we would just do it once after a certain time period of opening. We'd expect it to be different. So we're gonna have 3 different openings here for each building. They'll probably be constructed at different times. So say 6 months or a year after that building is tenant occupied and running, we would then do, you know, the updated study relative to that building. Then the second building would then include both of them. The third would include all 3. So that's sort of adjusting the schedule that's on here. Honestly, your ordinance section is a little confusing of whether you had to do a future projection originally, or if you had to do an actual study. So I think the compromise is we do the one study after each building is opened. Because I think that's gonna give you the information you're looking for to see how everything is actually operating when these buildings are being constructed over time.
I'll just say it bluntly, I don't like that. I respect the fact that as each building opens and what its intended uses for it, but I think the overarching goal we were trying to achieve in that ordinance was that as these things come in, traffic does change over time. And so that's why we wanted a couple bites of the apple down the road. And is that right? I mean, that's what I remember from it.
Yeah, I think traditionally and prior to the ordinance, you typically did only get either one round of updates or 2. You did not typically go beyond the 24 months for those updates. I think the amended ordinance does project out further than that. And I think that was also based on a recommendation from Greg Creasy, from the township's traffic engineer, that you in the past weren't getting updates far enough out in the future. However, I would defer to the board what the board does, and I don't know that there have been any situations in the past where anything would have changed having done additional traffic study updates further out, but would defer to Byron and staff on that question and the need to do it.
I guess for me, it comes back to the warrants, right? You know, as we were discussing earlier. Because things change over time, technology changes, the use of the buildings may change at some particular point, and ultimately, you as a developer may sell those buildings and someone else becomes the owner, at which point I assume all this becomes null and void if the ownership changes, does it not?
No, this transfers.
This transfers, so that's a good thing.
Recorded, yeah, it's recorded against the property.
And so, you know, having been subject to all the traffic changes in this area, you know, I think it's important to have it there. I think certainly planning it after each building makes some sense, and a couple months after each building. But
How
again,
about a suggestion of we knock this down to 2 frequencies? The 24-month, because I think 6 month is too soon. We do the 24 months and the 60 months, because the 120 months is way out there.
Well, I think the reason for the 6 month after each building reaches full occupancy was because, no offense, John, but we all think traffic studies are just, you know, not right. Okay. So I think that, no offense,
well,
that's,
let's not put everyone into that group, okay? I mean, I think, I
But
do think
that's
it's important,
why.
I do think it's important 6 months after, because
Yeah.
you have that initial opening, the settling down of what's going on, you know, maintenance or changes, things that go around. I definitely like the 24 months and, you know, 5 years later. I think 10 years is probably too far in the future, you know. But I do like the 6 month.
You'd be okay
Yeah.
with 3.
I'd be okay with 3. Yeah, I'd be
That's
okay
not
with
like
3.
that.
The question is do you do it after the first building or do you wait till the last building? Because that's a real question for, you know, an expense item, right?
Yeah, right now, there's 3 buildings and 3 studies, the way it's written, that'd be 9 studies. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, and it's private drive, so it's somewhat restricted, so.
Correct.
I think, I think 6, 24, and 60 months afterwards, the question is first building, second building, third building. And to me, go ahead.
The largest one's the first building, correct?
Yeah.
I would stick with the first one.
Well, again, you gotta watch because he said, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you said you might do the largest building first. That's probably what's there. But you may shift gears because you get new information once you get on site and it changes your approach. So, I mean, part of it, so just need to make a decision. My sense would be is, look, once they're all in, it's a private drive. And it could be 6 months after that and 2 years later.
Also, PennDOT did make a comment, and Byron, you'll have to throw in here, but pretty positive they made a comment that if they did change the use that would create more traffic, they would have to reapply for a permit. Isn't that correct? Didn't they make that? Yes. Yeah.
Because that changes everything.
Oh, yeah.
So I would just say then, to me, after the final building is put in, now the downside could be, it could be 3 years down the road before the final building's in.
Well,
And it says full occupancy.
Yeah, so maybe that's not a smart choice.
Well, and just know that, and Andy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, if you do alter this, I believe this would be a waiverable item. You would basically be waiving.
Yeah, it would be a modification.
Right.
So it would be a partial waiver.
Right. Just so you're aware.
So if we're going by occupancy, then the last building could be sitting there unused.
Yeah.
And that's a loophole to get around it.
The other option is, we could provide an escrow for a certain amount of studies to go through that, we come up with it, and if the township wants to do the study, they can do it. That way, it kind of relieves our part that we're necessarily tied. If we're gonna do 3 studies on this, we can come up with an amount, proper between us.
It's probably not a bid where we have make sure I understand, you put in the escrow to fund 3 studies.
Yeah.
We decide when we pull the trigger, whether that's first building, second building, last building, depending on what we're seeing.
But how does that affect us in the long run there? If we go and do one of those studies and then it turns out you are generating more, are you now off the hook kind of thing?
I don't think so.
Well, there's no
To
requirement in
make-
your ordinance to do any improvements. So there is sort of that missing link here anyway. But we'll give you the information to go forward with it. And if it's violating the HOP somehow, that's another problem which would come up.
Yeah.
So
So-
that way you guys can do the studies when you want at the appropriate times, or if you have complaints or something which we don't even know about. And there's a pot of money to take care of that.
So Andy, if we would do a study and it comes out not in our favor and there's a lot more traffic than what you proposed, so we still gotta go to PennDOT, because what we're talking about is a traffic light count.
Yes, and you're typically also talking about not just, I believe, most of the other intersections you're studying are PennDOT intersections as well, other than what's on Bartlett and Espresso. So, you're impacting PennDOT intersections, which is going to require an HOP and it's going to require PennDOT's cooperation.
Right, so if we come up with a study, PennDOT can still say no.
Right, and you are, I think a lot of what you're doing is confirming that the traffic counts of the driveway and the traffic counts being put on the road by the project are going the directions that were anticipated and are within the parameters that were anticipated. So,
That traffic study would also provide data to PennDOT. They'd have to basically deny their history, right? It would provide the warrants, it would show that there's sufficient volume to justify a light or stop signs and whatnot. So,
Right, in the past where we've used these more has been where you have an escrow for a traffic signal and you're testing in the future for traffic signal warrants for that intersection.
Which we do.
Right. Canal Road and Espresso was an example of that. The traffic signal did eventually get built down the road, and there was money escrowed in part for that.
So if we would do what Charlie's suggesting and get an escrow amount, would we build in an inflation factor? Because your cost now in 60 or 220 months would be different. So you would build in an inflation factor so that we wouldn't be out.
Yeah, they would have to give us an estimate for that, which Byron would have to okay. And yeah, I mean, it could include that.
Yeah, I like it. It puts the control, so again, whenever they finish a building, if we feel, we're seeing a lot more activity, whether that's constituents in the township saying it, we see it, gives us the ability to pull that trigger at that point in time. And it's 3 studies.
As long as we have an inflation factor in there, pretty healthy, because we've been down this road before, where we end up picking up partial part of the tab. And that's not fair to our residents to do that.
So you want COVID inflation, 10%.
Would, instead of an escrow, would just Maureen is saying they'll pay for the 3 studies.
Yeah, but they might not be around.
Yeah.
They might be building a plant in Argentina. Who knows?
But the escrow gives us the ability, gives us the funds to do that. And again, PennDOT needs to see data. And so they have to basically say your traffic study is flawed, and they go out and do it themselves. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, John, right?
I like this.
For study? I mean, that's what he's saying. So we were looking at somewhere maybe $30,000 escrow. So, I mean, the dollar numbers are literally less than traffic signal.
Yeah. But that becomes the piece of data that PennDOT needs to encourage them to say, now a stop sign or a stop light is necessary, because there's volume.
One thing I want to ask our attorney, I'm a little uncomfortable holding a lot of escrows for the future. What can we do?
So one alternative is you can just accept the contribution for it now and not hold it in escrow, but the responsibility becomes the township's. So, in other words, you grant a waiver to the requirement to do traffic studies, they make a contribution towards future traffic studies or improvements in a fixed amount, and there's no escrow, it's the township's obligation and cost to do the studies in the future whenever it so decides. So that's one option to handle it. Another is if you don't want to take the money now in any way, that condition can be, in the developer's agreement, can be worded that it's 6 months after completion of the final building, unless requested sooner by the Board of Supervisors. You leave it in your discretion whether you want to, you have an outside date to do it, but leave in your discretion whether you want to accelerate that date in some way. In my view, if the township's willing to take on the responsibility of doing the traffic studies and is okay, if the board's okay with doing that, it's certainly much easier to do if the township has full control of doing the traffic studies, and when the traffic studies are done, and it's just paying for them out of funds that were previously paid or are held in escrow. You don't have to then go back and deal with the developer, and if you're talking about doing a traffic study 5 years after completion of the buildings, it's probably highly unlikely that Hillwood's still gonna own the buildings at that point. They don't own the other ones that they built in the township for that long.
We ran into that before. We had to chase down who's going to do it, all that stuff. So,
That's very
the money in the
difficult.
hands, bird in the hands better than something like that.
Right, the investors who buy these are institutional investors, there's a property management company, but, those investors really have, little to do with the actual development of the property or things like that.
Seems like then the best thing to do is ask for a contribution, put it on our side of the ledger, and comes our responsibility, and we pull the trigger when we want.
You never get to pick who does.
Yeah, we have full
So-
control, and
So I'd want them to get together with Byron.
Yeah.
And Byron can.
As much as I'd like to say, Byron, I think since you're talking traffic studies, you might wanna have
Greg.
Greg do it.
Okay.
But they think so.
Okay, that's fair.
So you should, it would be three studies?
No.
It would be a cost, agreed upon amount, in the development agreement for the township to conduct 3 traffic studies, over time with appropriate, indexing of the.
And I think we did more or less concur that it's going to be 3 studies.
yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yep.
Took a while.
That's okay, we can work through that.
Yeah. Details are important.
Okay, can I move on to the next one?
Sure.
Okay, the next one is having to do with, sound and noise. And I think we're okay the way it's written, on here. I took a look at it, Andy and I had some discussion back and forth about, are we subject to it, are we not subject to it? And it's a little confusing in my mind, but the way I read this is that the approval is not subject to your new sound ordinance that's outside. However, the operations will be eventually, to go through with that. So you would do a sound study with the limits based upon the new ordinance, the limitations which actually are clearer. And the sound study would be done, really as part of the building permit application. That we would show that we're gonna estimate where the, sound generating devices are gonna be, either on the roof or on the ground. We would show a study which would demonstrate that the sound does not exceed the limits. Then we do construction. Sorry, if it did exceed the limits, we'd have to add mitigation